Hello, everyone. Welcome to our part two of the pending days of current affairs. And today we will cover 13th, 14th, and 15th of August. So let's start. Our first news is on Lachit Borphukan. The news is Prasar Bharati to produce a TV series on Lachit Borphukan. Prasar Bharati, they will produce and telecast a TV series of 52 episodes on the legendary general Lachit Borphukan of the Ahom dynasty. So the series will be broadcasted across the different Prasar Bharati platforms like Akashvani, Doordarshan, Prasar Bharati news services, etc. So in this regard, an MOU has been signed between the government of Assam and Prasar Bharati. So you all know about Lachit Borphukan. So let's have a glimpse of his early life first. So Lachit Borphukan was born on 24th November 1622 at Charaideo in Assam. He was the youngest son of Umai Tamuli, Borborua, and Kunti Moran. So he was born in a royal family. His father was the commander-in-chief of the Ahom army and was the first Borborua. Borborua was called 𝐷 in Thai language. So after his birth, the Ahom Mughal conflict. During the time of his birth, the Ahom Mughal conflict began, and it was continuing. So he grew up in this backdrop of the Ahom Mughal conflicts. He completed his studies in humanities, military strategies, and he was also taught Ahom scriptures, Hindu religion, economics, etc. So now let's have a glimpse of his career. So Lachit Borphukan was appointed to the post of commander of Hatidhara Tamuli by the then Minister of State. That means maybe the Buragamai or the Borghamai. And it was his first post of commander in the Ahom administration. Then he started his career for the first time by holding the post of the level of personal assistant. Then subsequently, he was appointed in the position of Bhura Borua. So while serving as the post of Bhura Borua, Lachit Borphukan showed his talent and his bravery. And for completing the task of the post of Bhura Borua, he was appointed as the chief officer of the 𝐓𝐸 Games in the post of 𝐓𝐸 Phukon. Later, he was appointed as the Dulakhoria Borua, where he had the task of controlling the king's Pali Pohoria while the king was taken into Dula. Then Swargadeo Chakravarti Singha, after learning of his skills, he appointed him as Borphukan and commander-in-chief of the Lower Assam, which is headed Guwahati. This is about Lachit Borphukan. Then you all know about his exploits in Alaboi and the Battle of Horaigat. He was most known for the Battle of Horaigat. So now we have glimpsed his early life and career. So I'm quite sure you will know about Alaboi and Horaigat. So let's move on to the next news. The next news is for GS3, retail inflation. The news is retail inflation slips to a 5-year low of 3.54% in July. So what is retail inflation? Retail inflation is also known as consumer price index. Inflation, it tracks the change in retail price of goods and services which households purchase for their daily consumption. So CPI, it measures the change in retail prices on a monthly basis. And from that, we can calculate inflation. So it includes both goods and services. This kind of statements can be asked in pre. Then it focuses on a homogeneous group of consumers. That is, consumers with the same likings in terms of commodity basket. Presently, it takes into consideration two homogeneous groups. One is the rural households and one is the urban households, because the consumption patterns in rural and urban households are different. So CPI, it reflects the cost of living of the two concerned categories of consumers. So what does CPI index interprets? Number one, it interprets the cost of living. It shows the purchasing power of the consumers. It shows the value of Indian rupee. Then most importantly, it shows the expensiveness of different articles that consumers buy and services that are availed. So how is CPI calculated? CPI is calculated as a percentage. It is the comparison of the general price level in the markets at a particular time period from a time frame in the past, and the year which is used as a reference is known as the base year. So base year, it is the benchmark. Currently, the base year is 2012, but a market survey is underway to change it to 2024. So how it is calculated? The formula for calculating CPI index is cost of a fixed basket of goods and services in the current year divided by the cost of fixed goods and services in the base year into 100. So that's how we calculate the percentage. And the institution which is mandated to calculate this CPI is the National Statistical Office under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. They compiles all the data regarding the statewide CPI for rural, CPI urban, CPI combined, and they release the numbers every month. So how is this data used? So CPI or retail inflation, it is a macroeconomic indicator, and it is used as a tool by the central bank and government for inflation targeting and for inspecting price stability, and also as a dictator in the national accounts. CPI also helps us to understand the real value of salaries, wages, pensions, purchasing power of a nation's currency, and regulating rates. Apart from this, we need to know there are different types of CPIs. So what are the various types of CPIs? One is CPI industrial worker, CPI agriculture, then CPI rural laborers, then CPI rural, CPI urban, CPI combined. So there are these are the different types of CPIs. So now we are mostly concerned with CPI rural, CPI urban, and CPI combined. And the various components used in CPI are food and beverages, pan, betel leaves, tobacco, intoxicants, clothing, footwear, housing, fuel and light, miscellaneous. So they all have very different kind of weightages, and which equates to a total of 100%. Our next news is the Thana Level Nagrik committees. It will come handy in GS3 and GS5. Recently, the state government has decided to reconstruct the Thana Level Nagrik committees. In this regard, the Home Department has issued a notification. So this has been done keeping in mind with the new criminal laws in force, the changing nature of crimes, and emerging technologies. So what is Thana Level Nagrik Committee? So the Thana Level Nagrik Committees are constructed under Section 11 of the Assam Police Act 2007 as a community liaison groups. The objective is to establish an effective public police interface. So this is somewhere it is also called the 3 Ps, public police partnership. So this public police interface to ensure smoother delivery of public services and to build mutual trust in policing matters. So the composition of these committees, the Thana Level Nagrik committees, it has 1 chairman, 1 member secretary, 1 invited member, the ex officio members, and the nominated members. So what role do they play? The Thana Level Nagrik committees, it will act as an interface, providing crucial bridge between police and public during any law and order situation. It facilitates communication, cooperation, to maintain peace and order. Then it also acts as an interface, providing crucial information about criminals, bad characters, antisocial activists, miscreants, and other suspicious activities to the police. Thus, it aids in crime prevention and investigation efforts. This Thana Level Nagrik committees, it also serves as an interface between the police, public, and voluntary organizations like Childline, 𝐓𝐴 and other NGOs. They also offer counseling and rehabilitation services to children and women victims of crime. These Thana level Nagrik committees can also be used as public forum, including the media, to push forward the concerns about police matters of public security and public good, as well as other issues pertaining to societal interest. These Thana level Nagrik committees, they also create public awareness on important socio-legal issues. For example, human trafficking, drug abuse, witch hunting, domestic violence, violence against women and children, child marriages, care and maintenance of parents, senior citizens, alcoholism, tobacco, juvenile justice, cybercrime, misuse of social media, and other such things. So one example of effective use of Thana level Nagrik committees was Project Prohari. It was started by ex-DGP Dr. Kuladhar Hoikia against witch hunting. So he used this Thana level Nagrik committees as an effective platform to fight against witch hunting. So apart from that, the Thana level Nagrik committees also create awareness about the availability of various services and assist in documentations and delivery, including passport verification and character verification. So the next news is on the safety of women in workplace. This thing is quite in news in the last few days because of this grave incident in Kolkata. So the National Medical Commission, they have issued an advisory for all medical colleges and institutions and urging them to develop a policy for safe working environment in the college and hospital campuses for all staffs, including faculty members. So, yeah, আমি যদি চাওঁ safety of women in workplace, it's quite in news, and this is a very grave concern for actually our country, because the numbers presented by the National Crime Records Bureau, I will show the numbers. It shows a very grim picture. So, according to the NCRB 2021 data, India saw a total of 4,28,278 instances of crime against women. Then the National Family and Health Survey 5 shows that around 30% of women in India between the age of 15 and 49 have experienced physical, sexual, or domestic violence. So, now we have to see what kind of issues these women faced. যদি আমি চাওঁ তো অকল এডাল্টৰ ক্ষেত্ৰতে হয় বা এডলচেন্টৰ ক্ষেত্ৰতে তেনেকুৱা নহয়, we see crimes against women from a pre-birth period because of female feticide. Then infancy and childhood আমি দেখা পাওঁ the deep-rooted gender inequalities, gender disparities in education, child marriage, then adolescence and adulthood, online abuses, domestic violence, sexual violence, honor killing, then elderly ক্ষেত্ৰত we দেখা পাওঁ যে lack of access to health care. So these are kind of issues women face. Then women's safety. It involves strategies, practices, and policies which aim to reduce violence against women, including women's fear of crime. The most common forms of gender violence includes domestic violence, sexual violence, including rape, sexual abuse, exploitation, trafficking, women's safety in public places, including transportation, other recurrent forms of violence like forced evictions, poverty, femicide, missing women, honor crimes, etc. So, এতিয়া আমি চাওঁ আমাৰ ইণ্ডিয়াত কি laws আছে pertaining to women's safety. Then these are the various kinds of acts for protection relating to women's safety. Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, Dowry Prohibition Act, Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act of 1986, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. It came from the Supreme Court guidelines of the Visakha judgment, which is simply called Visakha Guidelines. Then Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 was in news of late because of the state government's various initiatives against child marriage. Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, Commission for Protection of Child Rights Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, also it's a very stringent act. Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987. So these are the various kinds of legislative frameworks. Apart from that, before going to the various data, we also need to see some suggestions. So simple things which can actually increase the safety of women in workplaces. For example, number one, we can see physical security. For example, for physical security of women employees in an organization, we can issue identification documents, CCTV footages. So, to ensure security of women. Then, environmental safety. Under environmental safety, like we can do things like clearly displayed emergency contact numbers and their designated officers around the clock to be contacted in emergency, well-lit work areas, staircases, parking lots, so that women harassment nahoy, separate and secure toilets, strict surveillance of visitors, visitor registration, as far as possible, provide company transport for women working in night shifts, especially. Then number three, organizational atmosphere to আমি ভাল কৰিব পাৰো. Women employees, we have to make aware of their rights, to have a code of conduct, which actually NMC কৈছে. Every organization should have a code of conduct in place, of course designed by both of the genders. Internal compliance measurement for awareness of the policy, payment of salaries directly to the bank account, because salary card senior women employees of harass kore, setting up a sexual harassment committee, which can directly report to the head of the company by the organization, like the MD or the senior most member of the management. Then educational aspect of it, we can set up awareness camps regarding gender discrimination, sexual harassment, etc. Trainings, gender sensitization, and company. Yeah. Now, I have given here some data regarding the crimes against women. These are sourced from NCRB. So, the case of the rape was in news, so I have given separately the data on rape. So these are the kinds of picture it has shown. It's a very green picture, and I hope things will be better in the coming times. Our next news is on Rani Gaidinliu, which can be important both for GS5 in personalities and also for prelims. So Rani Gaidinliu, she was born in the Tosem subdivision of Tamenglong district in Manipur. The name of her father was 𝐃𝐤 and father was Lotfuanang. She was born on 26 January 1915. Rani Gaidinliu was from the Rongme tribe. She was a Naga spiritual and political leader who led an armed uprising against the British in Manipur, Nagaland, and Assam. At the age of 13, along with her cousin 𝐓𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵, she joined the Heraka movement. This Heraka movement, actually, it was aimed at the revival of the Naga tribal religion. So the movement was actually initiated by 𝐓𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵, who was a cousin of Gaidinliu during 1920s. Initially, it began as a protest against the British interference in the religious and cultural practices of the local inhabitants and their strategies of conversion. He also fought against the forced labor, high revenue that British imposed on the people. And once he had the supporters to wage a full-fledged rebellion, the colonial administration became fearful, and they actually imprisoned him and eventually executed him in 1933. So after the death of her cousin, Rani Gaidinliu took over the leadership of the Herakka movement. So Herakka, it means pure. It was kind of a reform religion. It had its own ceremonies, rites, rituals, customs, etc. And those were banned by the British government. So Rani Gaidinliu, she also had a chance to meet Mahatma Gandhi in 1926 in Guwahati, and where she was accompanied by Chadonan, and she took an oath to free her motherland from the imperial British. So Rani Gaidinliu was arrested in 1932 when she was just 16 and sentenced to life imprisonment by the British rulers. Between 1932 and 1947, Rani Gaidinliu was kept at several prisons across the Northeast. After India attained independence, she was released, and after that, she continued to work for the betterment of the community. It was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru who described Rani Gaidinliu as the daughter of the hills and gave her the title of Rani for her courage. She was also awarded Padma Bhushan. The state government has also developed a park along with a statue to honor Rani Gaidinliu. It is in Silchar. And Government of India has issued a postal stamp in her honor in 1966 and a commemorative coin in 2015. Rani Gaidinliu can be asked in 3 and maybe asked in GS5. So you should also know somewhat about the Herakka movement and something about hypo-Japanese. Our next news is an Assam Water Bodies Preservation and Conservation Bill 2024. It is important for GS5 because in the recent cabinet meeting, it was decided that with a view to serving the twin purposes of mitigating artificial urban floods and preserving groundwater, the state government is going to introduce the Assam Urban Area Water Bodies Preservation and Conservation Bill 2024 in the forthcoming assembly election. So, what are the key highlights of the bill? The bill will provide for preservation, protection, rejuvenation, conservation, regulation, and maintenance of the water bodies, which includes natural water channels falling within the notified master plan areas of the state. All these water bodies will be singled and notified with details of tag numbers and villages, making it easier for all concerned to demarcate and protect them from encroachers. Having details of tag numbers will definitely make it easier to identify the encroached areas. The bill will also have provisions to enable authorities to chalk out a plan of action along with formulation of appropriate schemes and projects for conservation and protection of the water bodies. For example, Amrit Sarovar chali g'ol. So tenekwa schemer loi কৰিবলৈ easy হ'ব. All the information related to the water bodies will be uploaded to a GIS portal, which will bring transparency regarding the water bodies. Then, our private water bodies are with an area of 2 acres or more, and all community water bodies, ponds, tanks, including those belonging to religious institutions, irrespective of their size, will fall under the ambit of this bill, except private water bodies having an area of less than 2 acres, and those located in areas notified as reserve forest, wildlife sanctuary, and national park. So, a bill provisions for the water bodies bill then it will be easier for the preservation, rejuvenation, conservation, because a water bodies encroach ultimately which leads to artificial floods. Then again, last budget of government data initiative integration of wetlands. So, the budget of 24-25, Assam government has allocated 200 crore for major paradigm shifts in the practice of flood management from traditional embankments to integrated management of wetlands and floodwaters of the Brahmaputra River. So, Northeast Space Application Center 271 wetland survey that are larger than 10 hectares and which are found to be suitable to divert floodwaters. So, if you wetlands integration যেনেকে আমাৰ flood protection of help কৰিব ঠিক তেনেকে এই Assam urban water bodies bill খনৰ provisions মতে আমাৰ artificial flood আমি control কৰিব পাৰিম, because this excess water which comes from generally from the hills to the city can be diverted to this preserved wetlands. So our next news is on affirmative action, which is important for GS2 because on the eve of Independence Day, President has called for affirmative action must be strengthened as an instrument of inclusion. So we need to know what is affirmative action. Affirmative action, it refers to a set of policies that support members of disadvantaged groups that have previously suffered discrimination in any form. The nature of affirmative action policies, it varies from region to region and exists on a spectrum from a hard quota to merely targeting encouragement for increased participation. Generally, I mean, affirmative action kini disadvantaged disadvantaged groups of you so that they enjoy a certain quota for government jobs, political positions, school vacancies, etc. Against historical injustice, compensation is affirmative action to important so that they can be brought at par with the advantageous groups. So India affirmative action to generally 3 dimension of the appointment and promotion in government services, reservations in public institutions, and reservation of seats in central and state legislatures. So our constitution key provisions to ensure affirmative action. Number 1 is fundamental rights, provisions for backward classes in OBC, SC, ST reservation. So Indira Sahani case 27% reservation for OBCs while capping the reservations at 50%. Creamy layer exclusion last class last video already said creamy layer concept to key then EWS reservation, Muslim reservation, because Karnataka has a 4% subcategorization of Muslims under the OBC quota. So affirmative action. So you need to know about affirmative action, and it is very, very important for GS2. Then broadcast bill. Actually, Bilkhon government anisile anar pisot okoman UN public UN grant hoar pisot government Bilkhon ghurai lole. Etia ei billkhonor significant eta provisions asle bishesh etia যেহেতু ঘূৰাই লৈছে ইমান এটা কাৰণে but significant এটা provision আছিলে যেটো কাৰণে UN grant আৰম্ভ হৈছিলে because first of all this bill will seeks to replace the 1995 Cable Television Networks Regulation Act. It was sought to consolidate the legal framework for broadcasting sectors and OTT platforms. A new draft bill it expanded its remit to include social media accounts and online video creators, and it sought to define a digital news broadcasters because recently a trend YouTubers or social media influencers, they played a very important role in the run up to the last election. যিটো কাৰণে এতিয়া গভৰ্ণমেণ্টে ভাবিছিলে যে তেওঁলোকক এখন আইনৰ আণ্ডাৰত আনিব লাগে সো সেইকাৰণে এই বিলখন আনিছিলে বাট নাও ইট হেজ বিন withdrawn. So গভৰ্ণমেণ্টে একচুৱেলি তেওঁলোকৰ ফালৰ পৰা একো ৰিজন দিয়া নাই কিয় withdraw কৰিলে, but because of it is basically said that because of difference in opinion within the ministry on whether the bill should apply to non-news online creators. Because non-news online creators they were also brought under the ambit of this bill. Jitu karne differences of opinion and finally government has decided to withdraw the bill. Now our prelims factual ক্ষেত্ৰত আমি ISRO SSLV কথা পাইছে. So ISRO will launch the third development flight of the SSLV, that is the small satellite launch vehicle. The vehicle will carry a 175 kg Earth observation satellite on board to space. This SSLV, it is capable of carrying payloads up to 500 kgs. Then we also have a news on India's defense exports, which surged to 78% in the first quarter of the financial year 2025. So suddenly APSC factual questions PDA, 1% of our defense export. So you can always expect this kind of difficult factual questions in prelims. So that's all for today. Thank you.